What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff Lund, and this is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, where we are intolerant to weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new and exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. It is 8 in the morning on Sunday. Gotta have one of those intellectual brain dumps. I was out in the woods yesterday, just walking around. There's a lot of stuff just kind of circling in the brain, and so have to kind of download it now. It came to critical mass. I like to compare my brain to a hamster on a wheel. I'm not the first who's done that. It's often a comparison, but sometimes it feels like there's just so much going on, and to try to get all of it down, the wheel is going very fast, and the hamster jumps on there and then is metaphorically able to keep up for a little bit and then is spit out the other side of the wheel. So I'm going to try to attempt to articulate some of the stuff that's kind of been going around in my brain in a way that's going to make some sort of sense. But the first thing is, I'm a pretty impatient dude. Whenever I do outdoor type things, there's always been some sort of goal that was necessary. And so going on a hike for the sake of hike, I just want to do it fast, just to get it over with. But preferably, I go on a hike to get up to the top of a mountain and there's a view, right? Or you're going on a hike to go fish somewhere. There's some sort of end to it. It's not just the hike itself that is worth it. And so that's kind of just an absolute jerk type thing to say, but it's honest. That's the way it was. Hunting and fishing. I can't say that hunting and fishing ruined hiking, because I've just always had them together. So hiking for the sake of hiking was always fun, but to a lesser degree than something that has an activity involved in addition to it. So yesterday was nice because I think I've matured a lot in the last year and a half as far as the outdoorsing, and in ways that I think are important, because if you love the outdoors, then you kind of have to love all aspects of it. You can't really compartmentalize it too much. My dad used to say that if you really loved music, you have to appreciate all modes of it. So I love music, but only rap, or I love music, but only country. You have to appreciate a symphony. You have to be able to appreciate the craft of different styles. And so saying that I love the outdoors, but only when I'm hunting, that's a little bit different, right? I love hunting. Same thing with fishing. Oh, I love the outdoors. Well, do I love the outdoors, or I just love fishing? So, being outdoors and with nothing to hunt, just sitting on the edge of a muskeg yesterday, it was nice to there was no goal. Just hiked out there, and I had a heavy pack. I brought my Jetboil and brought out my hammock and brought out some of the other just basic stuff that I take with me. I just sat there, and I would have got in the hammock, but I didn't bring the straps, so I could not hang the hammock. So the hammock stayed in the pack, but just sat. Wasn't in hunting mode, wasn't in any mode, just in kind of think mode, which was great. And then on the way back, there's some not really deep forest, but it was open, and there was a really steep hill that you can't really tell from a Google Earth or an Onyx map. And I just sat on the edge of that and saw there was a deer rub that was from maybe this last fall, maybe the year before, but I just sat there and just sat. It was nice. It was refreshing, and I thought again how I've changed in the last year and a half, 2 years, by what I've read, who I've listened to, and what I've watched has had a profound impact. I didn't grow up hunting. I grew up fishing, and so there's some basic sort of ethic, but then how you represent fishing isn't as important to the general public as hunting is. While some people might think that ethically or morally, catch and release trout fishing is pretty messed up, people are a lot louder about hunting practices. And like I said, since I didn't grow up hunting, I'm still learning so much about the ethics and how to conduct yourself and just things that you do, things that you don't. Some of these things are, inherently, but also in articulating the whole process, the whole everything about it is really important. Rather than just be someone that says, I love to hunt, oh, it's fun. Yeah, it is. But there's the whole experience too that's important, and how I represent. Not that I have a large following or I make much of an impact at all, but how I represent that is important because there's a growing hunters. The population of hunters is decreasing, and there's a growing amount of people who want it to be socially unacceptable. It's not just a matter of people saying that it's mean or cruel or that meat is murder. It's this underlying social norm that is, almost using shame as what you should feel if you do that. You're an old model. I talked about the obsolete man skills article, and the number one thing that men should not do in this century is hunting, because essentially you're an outdated model. Like, that was the thing that we used to do before we evolved to a point in our society where we don't have to go out and do that. And yeah, we don't have to. We don't have to. We can outsource the growing and the killing and the transporting of meat to someone else. But for some of us, taking the responsibility is big. And there's a lot of like hunting lines that sound good, but there's also, until you think about it, it's hard to really tell what that emotion is. Why do you go up to the top of a mountain to hunt? And there's misery. Like, why is that fun? And that feeling that you get, the adrenaline rush when you do take the animal and you're walking up to it, it's hard to describe. And so I think the thing that is, you just throw out fun out there because it's fun. I enjoy it. I get a chemical release when that happens. And it's, people then take that and they skew that and they manipulate that into, clearly, the people who are wrong in our society are the types of people who find killing fun. So you kind of have to do some mental gymnastics a little bit, and not to be apologetic about it, but articulate in a way that gives people maybe less ammunition. But at the same time, part of being in this country, in a free country, is that you don't have to censor yourself, right? People have to tolerate some aspects that they don't like of free speech just because it's a free country, right? So you should not feel compelled to listen to people that you don't agree with. And I think one of the prime example of an unfortunate byproduct of freedom is, we have to tolerate some things that we might all think is pretty immoral. But the Westboro Baptist Church and the people who are protesting at the funerals of U.S. soldiers, it's terrible. It's absolutely sick, but it's also allowed. And if we do allow the government to step in and regulate the ways that you can exercise your First Amendment right, then where does it stop? And so there are things that I don't like to hear, but hey, it is what it is. It's one of the things that I have to live with freedom, and I can choose to let that bother me as much as I want. But it's unfortunate.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Then you start having where it's the right thing, common sense, and it's not just about the speech, it's about altering and changing the action of it. So, um, particularly with maybe gun laws, I think a lot of people would be like the speech part of that, the First Amendment part of that, of I think that you don't need this gun. Well, I think I do. There's a conversation. We both have the right to articulate why we do or do not own weapons. But then when you start looking at which we can and can't own and how we should go about trying to prevent things like gun violence, which violence is violence, and it's terrible and it's tragic, but we live in a broken world, right? There are certain things we can't solve, and it's terrible and it's awful and it's disheartening and you just feel totally helpless. But people are manipulative. People are bad. People do bad things. Good people do bad things. So I think a lot of people would be in favor of, a lot of gun owners would be in favor of or okay with a gun license. However, because we distrust where that would go politically and socially in the future, because it's not about the day after that they implement a gun license. It's the prohibitive nature going forward that is why so many gun rights advocates do not give an inch, because there's a level of absolute distrust going forward. And that's where I am. There are certain weapons that I don't feel I need to own, and so I don't own them. But I absolutely believe that there would be a part of people who would use the most emotional examples as reason to continue to take away, well, you don't need this. And as soon as it happens once, right, the prohibitive nature of the gun license, what would the application process be, right? And if you pass something based on a promise, then people just go back on their promise. So I think the licensing process would be incredibly prohibitive. And then once you start infringing upon that, then people can step in and use that principle and that precedent and, well, you don't need this, and you don't need this, and you don't need this, and you don't need this. And then I don't think it would solve the ultimate problem of bad people hurting people. And it's sad, it's cynical, but I think it's just kind of the way it is. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And so, as an educator, I don't advocate for one political party or not. We just look at the situation, discuss it back and forth. But just the implication, the potential issues that could come about, given some of these really emotional testimonies, and there are opinions that you don't want to hear. There are opinions that totally disagree with your worldview, and so how are you going to respond to people who disagree with you? And there are people who have different I have some friends who have different political views, but they are great people, and we are close friends. So just because you have different political views on things, or different views on gun rights or hunting or that, does not mean that this person is a bad person or isn't on your team. You can have good, rational, great people who are in your corner as far as like the human being, but disagree with you politically. And I think we've got so divisive, and we label people based on how they would vote, or you fill in the gaps. You are this type of person. If you are in favor of banning certain guns, then, oh, you are this. And I can fill in every gap about the type of person you are because of how you would vote politically. And that's absolutely short-sighted and nonsense. In the same way, if you're the type of person who is, might even consider the other side, then, oh, you're the type of this person, you're not a true whatever. And it's not about being a true person. Like, everybody is the true nature of people is very complex, and people consider, and the way their brain puts the world together is very complex. And so if we try to reduce them to one topic, and because they would vote this way on this one thing that I know exactly everything else about you, that's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's crazy. If you can sit around in a room and you can exercise your free speech, talking back and forth about the issues with someone, good. Right. But we often attack people so much, especially on social media, like people from afar. You know, it's amazing to see. It's terrible, but people want attention for the actor who orchestrated an attack on him, and then it happens the other way too, right? There was that girl who accused 3 black men of rape, like, and then we weigh in from afar. I have no idea, man. I wasn't there for uh, that Catholic school kids and the Native American. I wasn't there. I don't know, but we want to weigh in on stuff like that when it's crazy. To kind of keep going with this dystopian sort of theme here, in 1984 they had the 2 Minutes Hate, where you have these very controlled people, but yet there's some sort of aggressive primal tendency that people have. And so you have the 2 Minutes Hate, where you can just get that aggression out. In Fahrenheit 451, you have the fun parks, where people just get to do violent things, just get to act out. And we have these violent tendencies, and you even see like people who are advocating for the proper respect to certain people, then they get violent in the way that they defend it, which is it's just what are you talking about? You're protesting someone because of their conduct that you feel is inappropriate, and in the way that you advocate for appropriate conduct, you are yelling or beating or abusing or wrecking or violating or burning or destroying private property. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I think there's a lot to be taken from discussions within the hunting and fishing realm. Also, talking to people who are outside of it and helping them understand, because it's it's the fringe people who are pushed one way or the other based on conduct. And so, as I said, all this stuff was kind of going around in my brain yesterday as I was walking out in the woods, and I just realized how great and how happy I am, despite all the nonsense that's going on, despite all the badness, despite of all the everything it looks like going forward is going to be worse off. But I can still be happy, and there's a lot of people like me that can be it. You know, you've seen people who have absolutely every reason to just be upset about life, but are finding happiness. Right? So we still exist in a world that, like, you can individually be happy, while collectively we might be miserable. And you just scroll through Twitter and you scroll through social media and you see how absolutely easy it is to be miserable. There are people who are finding happiness, and they can be engaged and they can be woke in this. I hate that term, by the way, woke. They can be engaged in the conversation and not miserable. It doesn't have to take over their life, right? Because their politician didn't win doesn't mean that, or their politician is being attacked. You could still have, as an individual, you can still have a happy existence, and I like that happiness, right? And I have the freedom to be able to define what that is to me, and there are going to be people who disagree, and that's fine. I can choose to listen to them as much as I want. I can look at, and I can evaluate, and I can assess where I am at these things. You don't want to just tell everyone else, "Well, I don't have to listen to your opinion because I disagree with it." You know, it's good to. What would someone else say? What was this person say about my lifestyle? And is there a good point in there somewhere? I think about this politically, or I think about this as far as budget speaking, or this, or what's this concept about? Rather than just, nope, you're not on my team. You can listen to it and you can kind of swish it around a little bit and see if you agree with it. So don't ignore it, but you can choose to let that impact your mood as much as you want to. So I'm happy. I'm happy, and it's great. Really appreciate all the people who've been influences the last, like I said, 2 years or so. The podcasts I've listened to, the stuff that I've read, the shows that I've watched, and just it's been good. It's been good to educate and continue to grow. I talk to a lot of people, and they say they miss some aspect of college just because it's being around an intellectual environment and pushing yourself and new ideas and thinking and evolving, so you don't feel like you stop learning once you were out of college and you're just on this doing my work thing now, and that's about it. So anyway, so there you go. We'll call that episode 80. Noise, politics, happiness, and manipulation. Make sure you check out themediocrealaskan.com for content. Check out The Mediocre Alaskan on Instagram, as well as my personal Instagram, Alaska Lund. As far as reads stuff, I just finished up American Buffalo by Steve Rinella. It went really well with Empire of the Summer Moon. Two totally different type books, but there's the buffalo aspect, so it goes into more detail about the history of the American buffalo in Steve Rinella's book. And so, yeah, good stuff there for sure. And make sure you check out a couple other podcasts. Since I'm saying like influences, the Meat Eater podcast has been great. Tyler Friel's Tundra Talk is awesome. The Right to Roam podcast out of Wyoming is awesome, just to see the difference in perspective of different states and what they're going through and what they're doing. The Hunting Collective is a great podcast, so you can check those out. Been listening to a lot of those. Yeah, call it good. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.